Backhand index pointing right before the story begins. Make sure to subscribe, because what you're about to hear will shock you. The music was soft, drums echoing gently as guests clapped with joy. Zola walked slowly down the aisle, her white dress shining under the warm African sun. Everyone smiled, whispering how beautiful she looked. Daniel stood at the altar, his eyes full of love, waiting for the woman he believed was his future. Zola smiled too, but her eyes were different. Cold. Distant. Almost empty. Just a little longer, she whispered inside her heart. As she reached Daniel, he held her hands tightly. Zola, you look perfect, he said softly. She nodded, forcing a gentle smile. Thank you, she replied, her voice calm, but her fingers were slightly trembling. The guests saw love. They saw happiness. But Zola felt something else, something heavy. Her eyes slowly moved across the crowd, until they stopped. There he was. Daniel's father. The man she believed destroyed her family. Her smile remained, but deep inside, her voice turned dark. Today, the truth will come out. And everything will change.
Before the white dress, before the smile, there was pain. Zola was not always the quiet bride people saw today. She was once a small, happy girl who ran barefoot on the dusty streets of her neighborhood, laughing as her father lifted her high into the air. He was her hero, a simple, hard-working man who believed in honesty, even when the world around him was not fair. Zola, he would say gently, placing his rough hand on her head, no matter how hard life becomes, never let your heart turn dark. And she believed him. She truly did. But one night changed everything. Zola still remembered the sound of heavy knocking on their wooden door. Her mother's hands trembled as she opened it. Two strange men stood there, their faces cold, their voices even colder. Your husband, he's gone, one of them said. Gone. Just like that. No explanation. No goodbye. Zola watched her mother collapse to the floor, crying in a way she had never heard before. It wasn't just sadness, it was fear, anger, and something deeper, something broken. Papa, Zola whispered, her small voice shaking. But no one answered. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Her father never came back. No proper story. No justice. Only silence. People in the neighborhood began to whisper. They say he knew too much. They say powerful men were involved. Zola didn't fully understand, but she felt it. Something was wrong. Something had been taken from them. Life became harder. Much harder. Her mother started working long hours, washing clothes, selling small goods in the market, doing anything just to survive. Their home grew quieter, colder. The laughter disappeared. Even food became a struggle. One evening, as the sun was setting, Zola found her mother sitting alone, staring into nothing. Tears rolled slowly down her face. Mama, what happened to Papa? Zola asked softly. Her mother hesitated, then pulled her close. Some men, powerful men, took him away from us, she said in a broken voice. Men who think money makes them untouchable. Zola's small hands tightened. Will they come for us too? Her mother shook her head quickly, but fear was clear in her eyes. No, but you must be strong, Zola. Never trust people just because they smile. Some smiles hide darkness. That night, something changed inside Zola. The innocent little girl began to fade. In her place grew a quiet strength and a silent anger. Years passed, but the pain never left. It stayed with her, in every struggle, every tear, every empty space where her father should have been. And deep in her heart, a question kept burning. Who took him and why? She didn't have the answer yet. But one day she promised herself she would find it, even if it meant walking into the very world that destroyed her family. Years later, the same dusty streets that once heard Zola's laughter now watched her walk with quiet strength. Life had hardened her, but it had also made her careful. She no longer trusted easily. Every smile, every kind word, she questioned it. That was why, the day she met Daniel, something felt different. It happened at a small community event in the city. Music played, people laughed, and for a moment, life felt almost normal again. Zola was helping serve food when a calm, gentle voice spoke behind her. Excuse me, do you need help? She turned and saw him. Daniel. well-dressed, polite, with eyes that carried kindness instead of pride. "I'm fine," she replied softly, avoiding eye contact. But Daniel didn't walk away. Instead, he smiled, not the kind of smile her mother warned her about, but something warm, almost real. "You don't have to do everything alone," he said. Those words stayed with her longer than she expected. Days turned into weeks, and somehow, Daniel kept showing up in her life. He listened when she spoke. He respected her silence. He never forced anything. Slowly, against her own rules, Zola began to let her guard down. Maybe, not everyone is the same, she thought. But then everything changed. One evening, Daniel invited her to his family home. "It's time you meet my father," he said with a smile. Zola hesitated. Something inside her felt uneasy, but she couldn't explain why. Still, she agreed. The house was large, far bigger than anything she had ever stepped into. Clean walls, expensive furniture, everything spoke of power and wealth. As she walked in, her heart began to beat faster. Then she saw him, Daniel's father, Mr. Okoye. The moment their eyes met, the world around her seemed to stop. Her breath caught in her throat. Her hands turned cold. No, it can't be. But it was him. The same face she had seen years ago, the same man people whispered about after her father disappeared. Mr. Okoye looked at her calmly, as if nothing was wrong. "So, you are Zola," he said in a deep, controlled voice. Zola forced a smile, but inside, her heart was shaking. "Yes, sir," she replied quietly. Daniel noticed nothing. He stood proudly beside her. "Father, she's the one I told you about." But Zola wasn't listening anymore. Her thoughts were racing. "This is him. The man who destroyed my family. The man behind my father's death." Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Some powerful men hide dark secrets. And now, she was standing right in front of one. Mr. Okoye's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than normal. There was something in his gaze, something unreadable. Did he recognize her too? Zola couldn't tell. But one thing became clear in that moment. This was not a coincidence. This was fate. As she stood there, holding Daniel's hand, a new thought slowly formed in her mind. Dark. Dangerous. If this family took everything from me, then maybe this is where I take it all back. Her face remained calm. Her smile remained soft. But deep inside, Zola had just stepped into the life of the enemy. That night, the city felt quieter than usual. The distant sound of traffic faded into the background as Zola sat on a small wooden bench outside her home, her hands tightly clasped together. Her mind was not at peace. It was racing, filled with memories, anger, and something darker. Amara, her best friend since childhood, sat beside her, watching her closely. She had never seen Zola like this, so still, yet so full of tension. "Zola, what's wrong?" Amara finally asked, her voice soft but worried. Zola didn't answer immediately. She stared ahead, her eyes distant, as if she was looking at something only she could see. "I found him," she said quietly. Amara frowned. "Found who?" Zola turned slowly, her eyes now sharp, almost cold. "The man, the one connected to my father's death." Amara's breath caught. "What? Where?" Zola swallowed, then said the words that changed everything. "He's Daniel's father." Silence fell between them. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Amara shook her head in disbelief. "No. Zola, this can't be real." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Zola replied firmly. "I would never forget his face. Never." Amara stood up, pacing nervously. "Then you need to leave, Zola. Now. This is dangerous. You can't be part of that family." But Zola didn't move. Her expression didn't change. "I'm not leaving," she said calmly. Amara stopped. "What do you mean?" Zola slowly stood up, her voice low but filled with quiet power. "I've spent years wondering what happened to my father. Years living in pain, in silence. And now, I'm standing at the door of the truth." She looked directly at Amara. "I'm not walking away from it." Amara's face filled with fear. "Zola, listen to yourself. This isn't you. This is anger talking." Zola's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile. "No, this is clarity." She took a step forward, her voice dropping even lower. "I'm going to marry Daniel." Amara's eyes widened in shock. "What? You don't mean that?" "I do," Zola replied without hesitation. "But you said—" "I know what I said," Zola interrupted. "And I meant it. This isn't about love anymore." Her voice hardened. "This is about truth. And justice." Amara shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. You're planning something, aren't you? Zola didn't answer directly. Instead, she looked up at the dark sky. Sometimes, she said slowly, to expose darkness, you have to walk into it. Amara stepped closer, grabbing her arm. And what about Daniel? He loves you, Zola. He's innocent in all this. For the first time, Zola hesitated. Just for a second. I know, she whispered. Then don't do this. Amara pleaded. Don't destroy an innocent man because of his father. Zola closed her eyes briefly, as if fighting something inside her. But when she opened them again, the softness was gone. I won't destroy him, she said quietly. I'll just reveal the truth. What happens after that is not my fault. Amara stepped back, realizing she could no longer reach her friend. Zola, this path will change you, she said in a broken voice. Zola looked at her one last time. Maybe, she replied. Then she turned away, her voice almost a whisper carried by the night air. But I was already changed the day my father never came home. The days that followed were quiet, but not peaceful. Zola had made her decision, and now she was living inside it. Every smile she gave Daniel, every soft word she spoke, was part of a plan. At least, that's what she kept telling herself. But something was changing. Daniel was not the kind of man she expected to deceive. He was gentle in a way that felt real. He listened when she spoke, remembered small things about her, and treated her with a respect she had never known before. One evening, they sat together by the roadside, watching the sunset paint the sky in deep orange and gold. The city noise faded into the background, leaving only the sound of distant laughter and passing wind. You've been quiet lately, Daniel said softly, turning to look at her. Zola forced a small smile. I'm just tired, she replied. Daniel studied her face for a moment, as if trying to read something deeper. You don't have to hide things from me, Zola, he said gently. I'm here for you always. Those words hit her harder than she expected. Always. Her heart tightened. For a moment, she looked away, afraid that if she met his eyes, he would see the truth hidden inside her. If you only knew, she thought. Daniel reached for her hand, holding it carefully, like something fragile. I know life hasn't been easy for you, he continued. But I promise, I'll never hurt you. Zola felt a strange pain rise in her chest. Never hurt me? The irony almost made her pull away. Because the truth was, she was the one planning to hurt him. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel's kindness never changed. He showed up when she didn't expect him. He defended her when others spoke badly. He even brought small gifts, not expensive things, but meaningful ones. Once, he handed her a simple bracelet made of beads. It's not much, he said shyly, but I saw it and thought of you. Zola stared at it, her fingers trembling slightly as she took it. No one had ever thought of her like that before. Thank you, she whispered. That night, she sat alone, holding the bracelet, her thoughts louder than ever. What am I doing? For the first time, doubt entered her heart. Her plan was clear, to get close, to uncover the truth, to bring everything into the light. But now, there was Daniel. Kind, honest, innocent. He was not his father, and that made everything harder. One evening, as they walked together, Daniel suddenly stopped. Zola, he said, his voice serious, I don't just like you. I love you. Her heart skipped. I want to build a future with you, he continued. A real one. No lies. No pain. Zola felt her chest tighten again. No lies. No pain. But her entire presence in his life was built on both. She looked at him, really looked this time. His eyes were full of truth, something she hadn't seen in a long time. For a brief moment, everything inside her softened. Maybe I can walk away. Maybe I can choose a different path. But then, like a shadow, her past returned. Her father's face. Her mother's tears. The unanswered questions. Her expression changed. The softness faded. I love you too, she said quietly. The words left her lips, but they didn't feel as simple as they sounded. Because now, Zola was no longer sure of one thing. Was she pretending to love him? Or was she slowly falling for the very man she came to destroy? The morning of the wedding arrived with music, color, and celebration. Drums echoed through the streets, women danced in bright fabrics, and laughter filled the air. It was a perfect African wedding, alive, beautiful, unforgettable. But inside Zola, nothing felt perfect. She sat quietly as older women helped her into her white dress, adjusting the fabric, fixing her hair, placing a delicate veil over her face. "You look like a queen," one of them said with a smile. Zola looked at herself in the mirror. A queen or a stranger? Her reflection stared back at her, calm and composed. But her eyes told a different story. They carried weight, secrets, and a storm no one else could see. This is it, she thought. No turning back now. Outside, Daniel stood proudly, dressed in his finest attire. His friends teased him, laughing and celebrating. "You're a lucky man," one of them joked. Daniel smiled, his heart full. "I know," he said softly. "She's everything I've been praying for." He meant every word. The ceremony began. Music slowed. Conversations faded. All eyes turned as Zola stepped forward, walking slowly down the aisle. Each step felt heavier than the last, like she was walking between two worlds, one of love, the other of truth. Daniel looked at her, his eyes shining with pure happiness. But Zola's gaze moved past him, until it landed on Mr. Okoye. He sat calmly among the guests, his expression unreadable, powerful, controlled, watching everything. A chill ran through her body. "You're here, watching your own truth walk toward you," she thought. As she reached Daniel, he gently took her hands. "You're beautiful," he whispered. Zola smiled softly. "Thank you," she replied. The guests saw love. They saw joy. But inside her, tension tightened like a rope ready to snap. The officiant began to speak about love, trust, and unity. Words that sounded pure, but felt heavy on her heart. Love? Trust? Her entire presence here was built on secrets. Daniel squeezed her hands gently. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Zola nodded. "Yes, I'm fine." But she wasn't. Her heart was racing now, her thoughts louder than ever. Should I do it now? Or wait? How far will this go? She glanced again at Mr. Okoye. For a brief second, their eyes met. And something strange happened. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look afraid. He just looked at her, like he knew something she didn't. Zola's breath caught. Why is he so calm? The question shook her confidence for the first time. The officiant's voice rose. "Do you, Daniel, take Zola to be your wife?" "I do," Daniel answered without hesitation. Then came her turn. "Do you, Zola, take Daniel to be your husband?" Silence filled her ears. This was the moment. The point of no return. Zola opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes flickered between Daniel and his father, between love and revenge. And deep inside, a quiet fear whispered, "What if the truth is not what I think it is?" The ceremony paused. The air felt heavy, like the whole world was holding its breath. Zola's lips were still slightly open, but no words came out. The guests began to whisper softly, confused by the sudden silence. Then, before anyone could question further, a calm but firm voice spoke. "Zola, may I speak with you for a moment?" It was Mr. Okoye. The entire crowd turned. Daniel looked surprised. "Father," but Mr. Okoye didn't look at him. His eyes were fixed only on Zola. Zola's heart started pounding. This was not part of her plan. I'll be back," she said quietly, her voice almost unsteady. She stepped away from the altar, her legs feeling weak, and followed him to a quiet corner behind the hall. The music outside continued faintly, but here, it felt like a different world. Silent. Heavy. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mr. Okoye took a deep breath. "I know who you are," he said calmly. Zola froze. Her chest tightened. "Then you know why I'm here," she replied, her voice low but sharp. Mr. Okoye nodded slowly. "Yes, I know what you believe." Zola's eyes filled with anger. "It's not what I believe," she said firmly. "It's the truth. You destroyed my family. You took my father away from me." Her voice trembled, but not with fear, with years of pain finally rising to the surface. For the first time, Mr. Okoye's expression softened slightly. Not with guilt, but with something deeper. "No," he said quietly. "That is not the truth." Zola laughed bitterly. "Of course you would say that. I didn't kill your father," he continued, his voice steady. Zola's anger grew. "Stop lying." "I'm not lying," he said firmly, stepping closer. "Your father saved my life." Those words hit her like a sudden storm. "What?" Mr. Okoye looked away for a moment, as if remembering something painful. "Years ago, I was involved in dangerous business dealings. People wanted me dead. One night, they came for me. Your father was there." Zola's breathing slowed, confusion replacing her anger. "He had a choice," Mr. Okoye continued. "To run, or to stand and help me? Zola whispered, almost afraid of the answer. And what did he do? Mr. Okoye looked back at her, his voice quieter now. He stayed. Silence. He fought to protect me, he said. And in the process, he lost his life. Zola stepped back slightly, shaking her head. No, that's not true. I tried to tell your family, Mr. Okoye added. But the situation was dangerous. If people knew your father was connected to me, they would have come after you too. Tears slowly filled Zola's eyes. So you stayed silent? She asked, her voice breaking. Yes, he admitted. And I've regretted that silence every day. Zola felt her world begin to crack. All these years, she whispered, we thought you were the enemy. Mr. Okoye's voice softened. I have been supporting your family quietly, making sure you survived, even if you never knew it was me. Zola's hands trembled. The anger she carried for years, the pain, the plan for revenge. All of it, built on a lie. Tears rolled down her face as her voice broke completely. I came here to destroy you. Mr. Okoye looked at her with calm sadness. And now you know the truth before you destroy everything else. Zola closed her eyes, her heart heavy with a new realization. The real enemy was not the man she hated. It was the truth she never knew. Zola walked back toward the altar, but nothing felt the same anymore. The music, the voices, the smiling faces, all of it sounded distant, like a dream she was slowly waking up from. Her steps were slower now, heavier, not with anger this time, but with truth. Daniel saw her approaching and immediately sensed something was wrong. Her eyes were no longer cold, they were filled with tears. Zola, what happened? He asked softly, concern covering his face. She stopped in front of him, her hands shaking. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The words felt too heavy, too painful to release. Everyone was watching, waiting. This was supposed to be the happiest moment of her life. But instead, it was the moment everything was falling apart. I can't do this, she whispered. The crowd gasped quietly. Daniel's expression changed instantly. What do you mean? Zola looked into his eyes, really looked this time, and the pain hit her even deeper. He was innocent, and she had almost destroyed him. I need to tell you the truth, she said, her voice trembling. Daniel's grip on her hands tightened slightly. Then tell me, he replied, his tone calm but confused. Zola took a deep breath, tears slowly rolling down her face. I didn't come into your life because of love, she said. Silence. Daniel's eyes searched her face, trying to understand. What are you saying? I came because of your father, she continued, her voice breaking more with every word. I believed he was responsible for my father's death. The guests began whispering again, louder this time. I planned everything, Zola admitted. Getting close to you, earning your trust, even this wedding. Daniel stepped back slightly, as if the words had physically pushed him. No, he said quietly. I wanted revenge, Zola whispered. I wanted to expose your family, to make you feel the same pain I felt. Daniel shook his head, disbelief written all over his face. So, everything was a lie? Zola's heart shattered at his words. No, she said quickly, stepping forward. That's the problem, it wasn't all a lie. Her voice softened, filled with emotion. Somewhere along the way, I started to feel something real. I didn't plan that. I didn't want that. But it happened. Daniel looked at her, hurt and confusion mixing in his eyes. Then why now, he asked. Why say all this today? Zola wiped her tears, struggling to stay strong. Because I just found out the truth, she said. Your father didn't kill mine, he tried to save him. Daniel froze. What? I was wrong, Zola said, her voice filled with regret. All these years, I was holding on to pain and anger without knowing the full story. Her knees felt weak, but she forced herself to stand. I almost destroyed you, for something that wasn't even true. Silence filled the air again, but this time it was heavier, deeper. Daniel looked away for a moment, trying to process everything. You lied to me, he said quietly. Zola nodded, tears falling freely now. Yes, I did. And you still came here. Ready to marry me? Her voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't know what was right anymore. Daniel took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling slowly. You broke my trust, Zola, he said, his voice calm but full of pain. I know, she replied, and I don't expect you to forgive me. She looked at him one last time, her eyes full of honesty now. No secrets, no lies. But I couldn't stand here, and build a life with you on a lie. Not after knowing the truth. For the first time since the wedding began, Zola chose truth over revenge. The air felt heavy, as if time itself had slowed down. No one moved. No one spoke. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on Zola and Daniel, waiting for something, anything. Zola stood there, her heart exposed, her truth finally spoken. For the first time in years, she felt no anger inside her. No revenge. Only fear, and a small, fragile hope. Daniel remained silent, his eyes lowered, his thoughts unreadable. The pain on his face was clear, but so was something else. Something deeper. He slowly looked up at her. "You planned to break me," he said quietly. Zola nodded, tears still falling. "Yes. And yet, you're the one standing here broken," he added. Those words hit her gently, but deeply. "I deserve that," she whispered. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some guests exchanged looks, others shook their heads. This was not the wedding they came to see. But this was something real. Daniel took a slow step forward. "When you said you loved me," he began, his voice slightly unsteady. "Was that a lie too?" Zola shook her head quickly. "No, that's the only thing I don't regret." Her voice softened. "I didn't expect it. I didn't want it. But it was real." Daniel searched her face, trying to find even the smallest sign of dishonesty. But all he saw now was truth. Raw and painful. He let out a long breath, as if releasing something heavy from his chest. "You should have told me earlier," he said. "I know," Zola replied. "But I was afraid you would see me the way I saw myself." "And how is that?" Daniel asked quietly. Zola looked down. Someone consumed by pain. Someone who almost became what she hated. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was filled with understanding slowly growing between them. Daniel glanced at the guests, then back at Zola. "This is not how I imagined my wedding day," he said with a faint, sad smile. Zola almost laughed through her tears. "Me neither." Another pause. A long one. Then Daniel did something no one expected. He stepped closer, and gently took her hands again. Gasps filled the crowd. Zola looked up at him shocked. "Daniel? I won't pretend this doesn't hurt," he said honestly. "Because it does. You broke my trust. You came into my life with a plan to destroy everything." Zola's heart sank again. "But," he continued, "that one word changed everything." "But you stopped," he said. "You chose truth, when you could have continued the lie." Zola's breath caught. "You could have married me, kept your secret, and destroyed us later," Daniel said. "But you didn't." His voice softened. "That has to mean something." Tears filled Zola's eyes again, but this time, they felt different. "Are you saying," she whispered, afraid to hope, "you forgive me?" Daniel hesitated. "Forgiveness doesn't come in one moment," he said carefully. "It takes time." Zola nodded slowly. She understood that. "But I'm willing to try," he added. Her heart skipped. "Try to rebuild what we almost lost," he continued. The crowd was silent now, completely drawn into the moment. Zola felt something warm rise inside her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. "Peace. Are you sure?" she asked softly. Daniel gave a small, honest smile. "No, but I know one thing." He squeezed her hands gently. "I'd rather build something real with truth than live in a perfect lie." Tears rolled down Zola's face as she smiled. This time, not forced, not fake, real. The officiant, still standing quietly, cleared his throat. "Should we continue?" he asked gently. Daniel looked at Zola. This time, there were no secrets between them. Only truth. Only choice. Zola took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes," she said. "Not for revenge. Not for pain. But for a new beginning." The sun was setting slowly over the African city, painting the sky in deep orange and soft purple. The same place that had witnessed pain, secrets, and truth, now felt different. Quieter. Heavier in meaning, but lighter in spirit. Zola stood alone for a moment after the ceremony, away from the guests, away from the noise. The wedding had not gone the way anyone expected, yet somehow, it had ended in truth instead of destruction. Daniel was inside, speaking with family. The guests were slowly leaving, still whispering about what they had witnessed, how a wedding built on secrets had turned into something far more powerful, a confrontation with truth. Zola looked down at her hands. They were no longer shaking. For the first time in years, she felt still. Not because everything was perfect, but because she had finally stopped running from her pain. Her voice came softly, like a whisper carried by the wind. I used to think revenge would heal me, she said. I believed if I destroyed the people I blamed, my heart would finally feel peace. She paused, her eyes distant. But I was wrong. A gentle breeze moved through her veil, brushing against her face. Revenge doesn't heal pain, she continued. It multiplies it. It grows inside you until you can no longer tell who the enemy really is, or if you have become one yourself. Her mind drifted back to everything she had lived through, the loss of her father, the years of unanswered questions, the anger she carried like a shadow. And then, Daniel, a man she once wanted to destroy, but instead found herself understanding. Her voice softened even more. I met someone I thought was part of my enemy's world, she said. But life surprised me. It showed me that truth is never simple. People are never just good or bad. And pain can blind even the strongest heart. She looked toward the distance where Daniel stood. He was never my enemy, she said quietly. And I almost lost someone innocent because I refused to see the truth. A pause. A deep breath. The hardest part was not discovering the truth, she added. It was accepting that I had been wrong. Her eyes lowered slightly. I carried anger for so long that I forgot how to forgive. I forgot how to breathe without pain. A tear slipped down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away this time. But I learned something important, she continued. Truth will always come, even when you try to bury it. And when it comes, you only have two choices. She looked up again, her voice stronger now. Let it destroy you, or let it rebuild you. In the distance, children were laughing. Life was continuing, as it always does, no matter what storms had passed. Zola smiled faintly. I chose to rebuild, she said. Her story was not a perfect one. It was not clean or easy. It was filled with mistakes, pain, and almost irreversible choices. But it was real. And real life, she realized, is never perfect. It is messy, emotional, and full of unexpected turns. But maybe that's the beauty of it, she said softly. We are not defined by our pain. We are defined by what we do after it. A final silence followed. Then her voice turned into something deeper, something that felt like a lesson, not just for her, but for anyone listening. If you are carrying anger, she said, be careful. It will feel like power at first, but slowly, it will take your peace. She took a slow breath. And if you are seeking revenge, ask yourself this first. When it's over, will your heart finally be free, or just emptier? The wind moved gently around her as she continued. I thought I was walking toward justice, she said, but I was actually walking away from peace. A soft smile returned to her face, until truth stopped me. Her eyes closed briefly, and when it did, I realized something I will never forget. She opened her eyes again, looking at the fading sky. Forgiveness is not weakness, she said. It is the strongest decision a broken heart can make. In the background, the last guests finally disappeared. The wedding was over. The story was not. But something had changed forever. Zola was no longer the girl who entered that world with revenge in her heart. She was someone new. Not perfect. Not healed completely. But honest. And alive in a way she had not been for years. Her final words came softly, almost like a promise to herself and to anyone who would listen. I came here seeking revenge, but I left learning something far greater. A pause. Truth doesn't just reveal the past, it rebuilds the future,